Hello everybody, thank you for joining us today. My name is Peter Sorensen. I'm the Senior Safety Officer for Elevating Devices, Ropeways and Amusements. I'm joined here today with Chahal. He's the the Safety Manager for Ropeways, Elevating and Amusement Rides.
Good afternoon everybody, and thank you for joining us for this presentation.
Okay, so today this webinar is being recorded and the audio is being muted. If you have any questions, please use the chat function and we will get to your questions during the presentation or at the end of the presentation. I have a slight disclaimer. This presentation is for information purposes only. In the event of a conflict, the requirements stated in the Safety Standards Act and the regulations, they'll take precedence. Okay. So moving forward, today's agenda, we're going to go through the safety order, part 2 of the safety order. We're going to define the owner and authorized personnel responsibilities. We'll locate and utilize the startup checklist, and we'll review the record-keeping requirements for the safety order. Okay, so the escalator moving walks. So safety order. So safety order has been issued due to a number of factors. In the last year, we've had some brake failures. We've had multiple pileups. We've had entrapments of feet and hands within the equipment. Just this year in Vancouver, we had brake failures. We've had rubber boots trapped between steps in the skirt panel in a Burnaby mall. We've also had a mechanic have his fingers trapped between the comb plates. If you want to see more information about these incidences, you can go onto our website. So I think the benefits for the safety order, I think was one mainly to minimize incidents by creating a mandatory daily check for escalators and walkways. By completing the daily checks, owners are more aware of the state of their equipment. This will help to prevent incidences. It will help identify minor deficiencies before they become major breakdowns. Ultimately, that will prevent costly repairs to the owner. It will also help to ensure that their device is code compliant, and hopefully it will reduce the amount of incidents that we see. So we'll go on to section 2. Section 2 of the safety order. This sort of outlines the daily startup inspection requirements. So as of October 1st, 2018, all owners of escalators and moving walks will need to ensure that the authorized personnel complete the daily checks and complete the startup checklist. The checklist is completed prior to public use. And if there's escalators out there that are operating 24 hours, then they'll need to be stopped in order to complete the daily checks. Okay. So we want to define what an authorized personnel is. An authorized personnel is defined as an individual designated by the owner and instructed in the necessary procedures to start up and operate the equipment. It's important to know that only authorized individuals may complete the daily startup checks, and the authorized personnel can only complete the checklist. So authorized personnel as well. All owners of the escalators and moving walks need to ensure there's a list of authorized personnel that's kept on the premises. You need to make sure that the list is current, and the list needs to be provided to Technical Safety BC and safety officers upon request. So the daily startup checklist. So records. So all the owners and escalators, they need to ensure that the daily startup check is kept on the premises, and you'll need to keep those records for at least 12 months on the premises. Startup log, you can keep it in either a hard copy or electronic format. The log can contain other items, but it must contain a completed checklist. And the log key, you can keep it in places such as the maintenance office, security office, secured areas where other documents are stored, but it must also be accessible to Technical Safety BC. Okay. So here's an example of the actual checklist. It's divided into 4 sections. So site information, entrance end, exit end, and then a general section. That's the middle section. This is a double-sided document. So the front is the checklist. That's where you're going to record all your daily and weekly results. And the back provides a description of each item and the required action that it's needed if there is an issue. Okay. So here you can see the first part of the checklist. This section checklist, it's important to fill out this section, especially with multiple escalators. The sheet can be used for the entire week, and it requires the initial of the authorized person completed a check for each day. So that's important to make sure that the person doing the checks initials each column. Okay. So here's the entrance end. Here's what you'll be checking daily at the entrance. Checklist has some minor descriptions and some more detailed descriptions on the back, and it also has the required actions on the back as well. Okay. The general section looks for hazards in the middle of the escalator moving walk. You'll notice that there's a spot for doing the daily stopping distance check. So that's a requirement that will start December 31st, 2019. That comes into effect after the contractor has completed part 1 of the safety order. Once he's completed, or the contractor has completed that portion, they'll affix a data tag onto the escalator that indicates the stopping distance, and that's the stopping distance that the person doing the daily inspection will record on the checklist. Okay. So the required actions. So all required actions shall be identified by the authorized personnel, but repaired by a licensed contractor. So while completing your check, use a check mark for anything that indicates a pass and an X to indicate a fail. If there is a fail, then you'll need to take the required action that's stated on the checklist guide. Okay? And it's important to note that authorized personnel may only remove the escalator from service. They are not authorized to do any repairs on the escalator. Only the maintaining contractor can do the repairs. And here's an example of the checklist guide. It provides instructions for defective items, and it mirrors what the checklist looks like. You can find the checklist and the safety order on our website, technicalsafetybc.ca. There's an interactive online resource that's been created which provides a visual representation of the checklist items, and we'll go through that as well. Okay. So when you get to our website, click on Choose Technology, and then click on Elevating Devices. Once you're in Elevating Devices, you'll click on View Regulations, which will open up, and scroll down the page until you find safety order the safety order list, and within that list you'll find the safety order, escalator, moving walk, brake, and startup requirements. So open that up, and you'll find an online resource. So on that website, you go to Choose Technology, and then Elevating, and then scroll down click on the here, and then on the Elevating Device page, scroll down to the middle, and click on the Learn More button. Okay, and right now I'll just open up the resource, the interactive resource. Oops, where am I here? And we'll go through that. So as you can see, So as you can see, this will be sort of the home page. You'll click on Begin, and it'll give you an introduction. It's sort of basically what we've just covered in this presentation. So, and you'll want to click Continue, and it'll go through each part of the escalator. So this part, you'll see it's the entrance and exit end, and if you click on one of the icons, or even just hover over the icon, it will give you a description and then required actions if there's an issue. Right, so for if you click on the start switch is used and gives you a description of what the start switch is and what recourse to take if it's not functioning. Okay, so then we'll go to the general. Same sort of thing. There's multiple icons, so by either hovering or clicking on them, it will give you a description and then again the required actions. Okay. And then the final one is the attachments. So there's two attachments. One is the escalator checklist. So you can open up, that's a PDF. I believe you can download that for yourselves. And then the other one is the actual safety order, which is a PDF as well. Okay. Any questions? Do we have any questions regarding that?
Not yet, but we'll give them a moment to type.
Okay. Questions?
No questions.
No questions?
Oh wait, there's one that's just come in.
Okay.
From Mark. On an entrance-exit end, there was a date referred to as December 1st, 2018. Can you please clarify what that date refers to? Just going to go back to that in the presentation.
No, the only two dates are October 1st of this year, and that's for start the checklist. So the owners need to start completing the checklist October 1st, 2018, and December 31st, 2019 is when the stopping distance checks will be required to be started.
We have another question from BPMC.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to the authorized personnel, this opens up parties to liability. Were the elevator contractors consulted prior to this safety order being put in place? Were recommendations made to them as to who the authorized personnel should be?
Okay, this is Nav, and I'll take this question. Yes, authorized personnel are defined by the code, and that is the definition that we have used to describe them. And secondly, we did have a consultation with the elevator contractors, and the stakeholder engagement pieces all pieces were engaged while consulting on the safety order.
That's all the questions we have at this time.
If you do,
Oh, sorry, one more just came in. From the same person. Can you please provide the definition of authorized personnel again? I'll revert back to the slide. I understand that it is someone defined by the landlord. This could be anyone.
Give me 1 second. So yeah, so the definition is an individual designated by the owner, instructed in the necessary procedures to start up and operate the equipment. So yes, the owner needs to designate an individual, but not any individual from a certain company can actually do the start of it. They need to be designated. So not all employees may do the startup. They must be designated, and they must be instructed in the startup procedure.
And we have another one. Mark would like to know who is providing the training to the authorized personnel.
So the online resource that we have provided is one of the tools that is available for these authorized personnel to use, and how to fill the checklist, and it's to help them fill out the checklist. The training, it can be provided by the elevator contractors, can be provided by the mechanics, or can be provided by consultants. So again, the tool that we have is to assist them how to fill out the checklist. The training can be provided by the contractors, the mechanics, or elevator consultants.
And we have a comment from BPMC in regards to the last question. It says, so this implies that Technical Safety BC is fine with anyone doing this work regardless of credentials. This opens up Technical Safety BC and owners to liability.
So the people that are designated by the author or by the owner are actually not doing work. They are verifying that the escalator is safe to use for the public, but they are actually not doing work. If work is required, or something that needs to be repaired, then only authorized or certified mechanics may do that work.
We have two more questions. From Todd, the question of liability wasn't fully answered. What liability falls on the party completing the checklist? This will come into play with a lawsuit against the owner due to an injury from a problem with the escalator, especially if a problem was missed.
So the asset owner is accountable for, in other words, you can say the owner is accountable for ensuring that the equipment is safe for public use, and anything that is in public use does not create an immediate hazard for the patrons using that device. So this checklist and all of this provides them an added level of scrutiny on and above what is currently present. So it is actually increasing the level of safety rather than decreasing and creating liability. It has added another layer where we have people who are designated, have a better understanding of some of the procedures, and are able to catch things and bring it to the attention of the maintenance contractors to perform the work or mitigate the issue before it becomes a bigger issue.
And we have two more. From Owen, the companies and contractors that have said they will not be providing training due to liability, is your web training then sufficient?
Yeah, I believe our web training is sufficient. If you require greater depth of training for your personnel, then you certainly can use either the mechanics or consultants to help you provide additional training.
And another additional comment from BPMC. If they miss something, then this is a liability. Checks and balances are reviewed on a daily basis by insurers. If we ask our security guard to do it, they have Technical Safety BC training through your website and something is missed. This could be missed based on poor training provided by Technical Safety BC.
So like I mentioned earlier, this is an additional level of oversight that we have added. This doesn't take away the monthly visits that the maintenance contractors would be performing. So right now we don't have a daily requirement. And actually, if you look at the 2016 edition of the B44 code, that is a harmonized code across North America. And these requirements are strictly in line with that. So it is not something unique to BC that this is happening. These requirements are a North America requirement, ASME and CSA B44, and they are already in place in provinces like Ontario and recently in Alberta as well. So again, we think it is an added level of checks and balances that will ensure much more safer operating escalators in the province, and the work is still being done by the maintenance mechanics. The maintenance mechanics will still be doing their monthly checks and balances on the equipment. So this adds another added layer of checks.
I believe you've answered this, but they add an additional comment, so I'll read it out. The same people say, our elevator contractor has advised they will not provide training due to liability reasons. Technical Safety BC is the only training the authorized personnel will receive.
So like Peter mentioned, yes, the online resource that we have put together helps you fill that checklist, gives you basic understanding of the components of the escalator, and provides you with the recommended action that you should take when you encounter any one of those situations. So there are other, and if you as an owner find that is not an adequate training, there are other resources, like I mentioned, the mechanics, the contractors, or elevator consultants. You can engage with them to get additional resources. What we have provided is a tool which will help, is a basic tool that helps you how to understand the checklist, how to fill it, understand your obligations on keeping those records.
Okay, and we have a comment from Mark saying, you mentioned the 2016 code. Sorry, my screen just went up. There's a few more questions that have come in. So Mark says, you have mentioned the 2016 code. We are not currently under that code, so can you please clarify that?
Yes, that is correct. We are still operating in under the 2007 edition of the code. So these requirements actually came in the 2010 edition of the code, and so that is why we had to issue a safety order, because these are not currently in the regulation, but we saw a spike in the number of entrapments, number of pileups, and brake failures happening. So we had to take a preemptive approach and issue a safety order rather than wait for the code to be adopted. So that is the reasoning. But the requirements are in line with the requirements in the code. So hence a safety order. Otherwise, it will become a requirement as general.
BPMC has said, can Technical Safety BC set up another webinar with training from an elevator company? If they're on board, they should be fine with this as a value add to this training.
Karen, could you repeat that again, please?
Yes. Can Technical Safety BC set up another webinar with training from an elevator company? If they are on board with this, they should be fine with this as a value add to the training. I believe they're looking for training from the actual elevator company, is my understanding of the question.
Yeah, certainly we can take it offline and consider it and look into it. But at this time, we do not have something like this planned. But if we, like I said, we'll take it offline and we'll need to get maybe whoever is asking this question maybe can set up something offline with us and we can discuss it in detail, what type of training they have in mind.
I have put the contact email up, so you can send in the details there and just ask for the email to be sent to Nav. One final question it looks like here, unless some come in while you're answering it. Oh, no, another one came in, never mind. From Owen, he would like to know, will you be providing further information to owners, such as the definitions you have referred to that are not readily available to the average owner? And will you be providing information pamphlets to the contractors and consultants with the training information you've outlined that can be handed out to the equipment owners?
That is a very good point. We have engaged with all the owners who have signed up for updates from us. So as we release the safety order and the checklist, we sent out a notification to them. But we'll certainly consider the idea of pamphlets and other ways of communicating that we can provide to the industry so they can be distributed. Thank you.
BCMC has said, we sent these questions previously through our consultant and Technical Safety BC did not respond. I believe that was the questions in regard to the elevating company coming in for training. I think that might be best addressed in an email, so we'll take that one offline.
Yes.
Yeah. And then finally, going from Derek here, that says, it might just be a comment. It says, the local union has informed their mechanics that they do not provide training to non-members.
Yes, and that's what we've heard through industry as well. But there are other avenues that if you feel that you need extra training, that you can go through consultants.
So we have a question from Sammy. Is the online interactive resource the only training material for the designated authorized personnel for the startup checklist procedures?
So we've offered this interactive resource, but you can either contact your contractor if you need further training. You can also, consultants may also do some further training if you like. But for us, this is what we've offered, but you can access other resources.
What if the contractor refuses to train the designated authorized personnel for liability concerns?
Well, then again, you can use our resource, or you can go outside of your contractor if you need to, such as a consultant if you feel you need extra training.
Just give a moment to see if there are any other questions. From the same person, what does Technical Safety BC expect to see on the record of the designated authorized personnel training? A certificate or a form signed by the personnel and the owners? Is there a template that is provided by Technical Safety BC?
I'll answer the last part of that question. So we didn't provide a template, and really what the expectation for our safety officers is to see some form of a sign-off stating that they've received some training, they understand the training, and then there should be a sign-off of the person that was trained.
And from Andrew, what is the minimum amount of training?
Well, I don't know. I would have. I mean, our resources is one of the training vehicles that you can use. If you think you need more training, then you can go outside use your contractor or your consultant. But we haven't really set a minimum training.
Okay. And what is the liability for the authorized individual in an event, in the event of an incident?
I'm not too sure if there is liability, provided that they are completing their daily checks and completing them correctly, and making sure that if there is an issue that they are notifying the correct people. As far as liability goes, I think we've actually, by having the owner designate someone to do a daily startup inspection or a check, we've actually, I think it's probably decreasing the liability of the owner, because they're doing more now than what was previously done in the past.
And finally, how do we know that the training we have found is sufficient?
Well, I think the resource that we've provided explains everything that's on the checklist. So, in our view, that is sufficient to be able to fill out the checklist. And then again, if you need further clarification or training, then you can turn to your contractor or a consultant.
From another person, we have, I manage a commercial property and I have an escalator inside a chapters. As I do not have staff on site every day, are the chapters staff to be trained to inspect the escalators daily?
Again, you'll have to designate an authorized personnel to do that. So if you don't have access to it, then somebody who has access to that escalator every day that it's in operation will need to be authorized to perform the checks.
Just going to give one more minute for any questions that are currently being typed. From Andrew, have these procedures been put in place elsewhere, and how is the work being handled?
So the requirements of this checklist are actually now found in the B44 code. They were introduced in 2010, so we really haven't changed or made up anything of the code. The only thing that we've added to this requirement is the fact that we are asking for a brake stopping distance. Other than that, all these requirements are in the code. And as far as I know, Ontario has been doing this for quite a number of years, and so has Alberta. And I think with fairly good results.
Thank you. Again, I'll just give another moment for any questions being finished. If a management company does not have a representative on site, just a tenant, then the responsibility will fall to the tenant to comply?
Yes. And they will have to, either the owner or the tenant who's responsible for that device will need to determine who's going to be the authorized personnel, and they will have to receive training.
Thank you. Are there any final questions before we end the webinar today? How does Technical Safety BC ensure that the training provided by the owners and authorized personnel is adequate, as most owners depend on Technical Safety BC for this?
So again, with this resource, I think we've demonstrated how to proceed with the checklist and what to look for through on this checklist. And also we've provided some avenues as to how to respond to if there's an issue with these with your escalator. So I think the resource itself is adequate. If you require more training, then again you'll need to go to your contractor. But from our standpoint, the resource that we've provided is adequate.
All right, thank you very much. If there are any additional questions, where can they reach?
Yeah, so if you have any additional questions or comments, you can send an email to contact@technicalsafetybc.ca or our toll-free number 1-866-566-7233.
Thank you everybody for participating.
Thank you very much.